Desert Oracle Radio, the voice of the desert.
Night has fallen on the desert, and it sure got cold fast. That's the October surprise of the high desert. Or November surprise, if that's when it happens. What random day after a heat wave will it suddenly get very cold with snow flurries and the whole deal? And that's the surprise every year. I hope you enjoyed the season of fall, which lasted 2 or 3 days or so as usual. It happened on a Sunday where I was. A very nice autumn. I'll miss it. But here we are, a month later, headed towards the end of November and another year, and it is so beautiful outside that it can make a grown man cry, especially if the wind is blowing a lot of dust and other filth into his eyes. This last Sunday, this glorious Sunday, I take my coffee and my book outside and sit in the sunshine, mostly ignoring the book because it's just so nice out. But there's a low murmuring, a low mumble of creatures, too. I slowly notice it. It takes me a minute to figure it out. The Joshua tree closest to me, maybe 30 feet away on the right, is suspiciously dark about the branches. And then I pick out this one sleek black head and realize there are several ravens crowded together and they're hiding, muttering to each other. But the muttering is coming from across the road, too. And from the big Joshua tree about 20 feet to my left. And as soon as I see that one big raven head, I've apparently ruined their hiding game as great black crowds of ravens simultaneously rise from all the Joshua trees around me. Must be 100 birds. Big corvids with their dark wings a-flapping. Up they go like a whirlwind. They are a whirlwind, a clockwise winding cloud of ravens. They rise ever higher, talking and cackling all the while, as several other groups fly in from all directions, the four winds, until one of those notorious desert raven parties is right overhead, hundreds of big blackbirds. It breaks up within a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, and once again I am alone. One of those moments when I'm reminded again that the world is wondrous and strange, and that our corvid cousins engage in great social games of play and competition and organized sport that we struggle to describe with the dull modern language of consensus science. Corporate science, academic science, the magic of life reduced to committee-approved words and numbers on spreadsheets and unread footnotes. Why do the ravens engage in such complex games? Why were they all hiding in the branches, still as stones? And nothing but whispers from their generally loud mouths. What signal sent them rising up that way? I wonder, but I have no sense of urgency about it. My wonder is not a question. It's the wonder of awe, of being awestruck, once again, by these mysterious animals. With the dark flapping threat of the ravens gone, the quail gingerly emerged from the brush and began their pecking and squeaking and bobbing around, kicking up the dust, somehow finding enough seeds to keep them sleek and plump so long after the springtime. I think of Thanksgiving birds roasting in the oven, and how years ago I went to a dinner party out in Wonder Valley at this artist's house, and they had the chef from this hipster restaurant in Los Angeles there to cook up a feast. And he was a funny redneck character, and he'd spent that morning out in the dry wash getting his limit, so everybody had their own roasted quail for dinner, along with all kinds of other delicacies I can't remember. The restaurant later became infamous on the internet because its famous jam preserves were covered in mold. And the restaurant's fans all pounced in a great mob of hatred. The people were glad for the misfortune because the restaurant was guilty of gentrification, was the story. 20 and 20. Very strange year.
Desert Oracle Radio.
This is Desert Oracle Radio with the Soundscapes by RedBlueBlackSilver. I hear he's back in his old hometown, like he goes back to every Thanksgiving. He dresses as a giant turkey with a tricorn, like a colonial hat, at the children's fair over there. So go by and say hi if you're going there on Thanksgiving Eve. Open 10 p.m. Thanksgiving Eve. Lots of news right now. Everybody's talking about the big story, which is we hear the road through Mojave National Preserve has been restriped, maybe even partially resurfaced in one of those sections that got washed out recently. No road looks better with a fresh layer of blacktop and that golden yellow double line winding between the Joshua Tree foothills. They say that sorrow makes the miserable satisfied, and that even the losers get lucky sometimes. I have heard that some of you are upset about the recent election. How Brant McDougall should have never been elected town dog catcher, and that McDougall is not even a real name, and that there are more loose dogs and prowling pit bulls than ever. But as of press time, they are still counting votes in San Bernardino County, so for now we're just going to have to make it on our own. Catch the dogs ourselves. Lots of people still come out to Joshua Tree and 29 Palms and Yucca Valley and all that for the Thanksgiving or the Christmas holidays, sometimes both. Especially if their parents live out here and have a nice big house with a big kitchen and 3 or 4 uncles who never leave the football game on the TV until the turkey hits the table. But in a godforsaken desert like the Mojave, a turkey seems an unlikely animal that you'd come across unless it comes directly from the freezer case at Stater Brothers. But here's a little bit of history regarding Joshua Tree, the grand bird of the Republic, the turkey. Perhaps while you were exploring the national park, Joshua Tree National Park, you've noticed a place down there by Pinto Basin called Turkey Flats. And you might think that's just another goofy place name, the long ago result of some old miner who famously longed for turkey but had to make do with jackrabbit stew. Something folksy like that. But it was the site of an early 20th century turkey farm. In the days before the desert became a beautiful landscape in the eyes of people with credit cards and Airbnb reservations, Californians tried to grow just about everything in the desert, including turkeys, successfully for a while. This is from the National Park Service. Local folklore holds that in the 1920s, an enterprising poultry farmer believed a turkey farm would do nicely here, thus the name Turkey Flats. Lack of water and distance from markets, however, proved otherwise. Well, so much for that. I'll tell you another little bit of lore about Turkey Flats, though, before we get to the other turkey farms. It is said that way out there on the far side of Turkey Flats, there is a grave site of the unknown turkey. It's marked with a little pile of rocks. So Turkey Flats was not the only spot around here where the Thanksgiving birds were farmed. Much more successful was the collection of large poultry farms in North Joshua Tree, the Sunfair part of town, where it's real hot and flat. An area that was known for decades as, that's right, Turkey Town, USA, Joshua Tree's real name. That's the truth. It even shows up on old AAA maps from the 1940s. Turkey Town, USA. According to the Green Acres Ranch vacation rental, which was also a turkey farm, but closer to Copper Mountain Highway 62, Sunfair's Turkey Town consisted of 19 separate poultry farms with an average population of 47,000 turkeys, which is the exact human population of the Morongo Basin today. What does it all mean? We apparently had a big national election as well, pleasing some and outraging others, but mostly it's just another day for the working people of America. Another day in the salt mines, the Walmarts, the diploma mills. As it should be. This national hysteria, something that used to only happen every 4 years, has become an affliction that now lasts not only through the campaign season, but for the entirety of the 4 years before and after. Constant craziness. But if you look at the news or social media or whatever, it's all anybody's talking about. Apparently no other news on Earth. I advise tuning it out. Unless you're having fun with it all, then have fun. It can be fun to count back through all the U.S. presidents of your life. I had Lyndon Baines Johnson, Richard Nixon for not quite 2 terms, Gerald Ford for a minute, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan for 8 years, George Herbert Walker Bush, Bill Clinton, he also got 8 years, in various circus event impeachments, George W. Bush for a double term with the great American hero Dick Cheney and their various catastrophic global wars, according to the History Channel. Barack Obama for a double term. Donald Trump for 1 chaotic term. Fading into the fever dream pandemic years, Joe Biden in there somewhere, wondering where he is. We're wondering where we are. Nobody knows what's going on. And now Donald Trump again. Still the only person to go from a top-rated primetime TV series about himself to 2 non-consecutive terms as United States President. I strongly advise not becoming a politics nut, not knowing a bunch of political campaign trivia like, unfortunately, I do. Unless it's your job, your passion. But it's never too late to just ignore politics if it makes you unhappy. That's what the hippies were doing in the very late 60s, early 70s. You know, the Get Back to the Land movement, drop out. They weren't happy with how it was going, so they split. That's what they used to say, let's split. That's what half the cable news audience did after the election. That's enough. They turned it off. All the ratings collapsed. Those cable news channels used to have 20 million viewers every night in prime time. Now it's down to about 3 million for all of them combined. Just 8 years ago, 20 million combined cable news audience. And the bulk of the audience, 65 and over. They're retired. They watch 40 hours of television a week. If politics is your job, that's different. There's a reason politics uses the war crusade terminology. Campaign. It's war. It's on purpose and it's on a schedule. It's a blood sport, but the blood is mostly in everybody's eyes from not sleeping, from too much booze and amphetamines and red-eye flights, and trying to get the candidate to remember the name of this current city they're in. Politics is, as the late Hunter S. Thompson put it, better than sex. Being on the campaign trail, the adrenaline of another daily outrage, the great build-up to the day of the contest, and then the 3 months it takes to count the votes in California. The Sunday before the election, I looked at the trending topics on Twitter, and they were all about football games. Every single trending topic. Football players, football games, everyone. And I thought, that's how it should be. Let people have a weekend off. Let people care about what they're interested in. Vote on election day if they want, and enjoy the game on the TV on the weekend. I've been writing this episode for so long. When I started this script, Joe Biden was still president.
The Sierra Nevada is a barrier, and little moisture finds its way over the mountains into the great dry valleys that lie below. Sprawling across some 20,000 square miles of California and Nevada is the Mojave Desert. Once this was a region of clear water lakes. They began to dry up over 20,000 years ago. Since then, man has been unwelcome here. Yet many have come. In boom days, some men sought fortunes here. In 1849, the great gold rush to California began. Pioneers crossed this part of the Mojave Desert in wagons and on foot. Most of them made it. Some of them didn't. They called it Death Valley. Rising above temperatures that have reached 190 degrees on the surface, a hawk soars above the heat of the day. Beneath is a barren wasteland. The appearance of a coyote on the salt flats surprises Fletcher. Neither man nor beast belong here. The pupfish have adapted to water temperatures that reach that of seawater. Isolated and imprisoned in the salt flats in a span of only 2,000 years, and on the bodies of their dead. Two things are in short supply. Fletcher buried water jugs at strategic intervals. Even in April, they're called mustangers. Once, when wild horses were abundant, they made a precarious living rounding up mounts fewer mustangers. But for them, it's still a way to work doors.
Well, we got a few anyhow. Not bad here.
Their capture and removal by these wranglers to the ecological balance of the area.
I got it. Yeah. Go on with him, John. Okay. Look out, Lane.
Some naturalists feel the burrows have a rightful place in Death Valley and have become an integral part of its ecology.
A lot of people seem to be very much against burrows. They just don't like them.
This is really pretty close. Those two over there I've named. Rough coat and dust. Top teeth.
Has yet to find any reason to deny them their further existence. Early travelers across the Mojave described its desolation. For a few weeks each spring, north and west from Death Valley, the White Mountains rise to over 14,000 feet. Above 10,000 feet, there are trees that have remained stubbornly rooted for over 40 centuries. The bristlecone pines. The age of the oldest living bristlecone pine has been established at 4,600 years. From as far away as Los Angeles, it has already crippled and killed when this was a region of trees and shrubs, when the wind was cool and wet, when game was plentiful and water abundant. Here's the last testament of a vanished people. These drawings are relics of a culture lost to the desert. Who made them, or why? There is only speculation. And the bighorn sheep was their primary prey.
am Boyd Isaacs, broadcasting across the Great Mojave Wilderness. This is Desert Oracle Radio with the Soundscapes by RedBlueBlackSilver. Visit our website at desertoracle.com. Thanks to our listeners and supporters who keep this show alive at patreon.com/Desert Oracle. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving wherever you are. Even if you're in Canada, where American Thanksgiving is still illegal. I realize some of our listeners are sort of solitary types, and it gets a bit much to have all these relatives and friends and whoever talking and hanging around and having fun. So I'll tell you a good way to clear out for a while. Just say, it's time for your walk. Like you're a dog. And you take yourself on a walk. Oh, and maybe your hot step cousin is there too. The one you haven't seen in 5 years. And you both go on a walk, and then it's like a little date. Not a real cousin. Nobody knows for sure. There's probably an actual dog that needs walking too. Nobody remembers to walk the dog on Thanksgiving. They're so busy doing everything else. So take yourself for a walk, take the dog for a walk, get some fresh air, and then you can come back inside again. And oh no, now they're screaming and yelling at the football game. All right, you can take one more walk. Walk down to the bar on Old Main Street, the one you used to sneak into as a kid. Good night from the voice of the desert.